would I ever leave this company? Look, I'm all about loyalty. In fact, I feel like part of what I'm getting paid for here is my loyalty. But if there were somewhere else that valued that loyalty more highly, I'm going wherever they value loyalty the most.
Message, brother. We'll go when I'm ready.
All right, good morning and welcome to The League Has Spoken, our episode 11, I think. Episode 9 of season 49. You're getting just me this week. We're in a tight turnaround with some family stuff going on, some work stuff going on. So you're getting just me. Next week, I think we'll be back to the normal flow of things. Bree will be joining me. Maybe we'll have a guest next week. But this week you're getting just me. So, with that being said, let's dive into it. A very, very abridged version of The League Has Spoken. Your spoiler is gonna start now. All right. So, since it's just me, a lot of these jokes are not gonna work, but I'm gonna attempt them anyway. So, the recap starts and it brings up Christina's idol, which had me saying on the couch that I guess that's gonna be important this week. Um, since we're in spoilers, I'll just say it. It never came up again. I don't know why they chose to show that. So the group returns from our last tribal council, in which case they voted out MC. If you'll recall, I had a meltdown watching my team member, Segretti, try and talk her way out of the game, although she was unsuccessful. And I bring this up because they get back to the beach, and Christina does the worst thing possible and makes a big show of why is Segretti still here, which pretty much sent Segretti on a spiral yet again. She enters her villain era. She calls them on it, and they all kind of get awkwardly quiet. And she's like, "What do you guys don't like me? You prefer that I was gone?" And no one says no, which is the catalyst for her pretty much flipping for the rest of the episode. So, in the chaos, Savannah also ends up telling Valerity about her extra vote. And Steven does tell Sage about Christina's idol, but once again, that never really comes up again. So we can pretty much forget that note. Um, I'll say this too. Uh, there's a scene early in this sequence where Rizzo is kind of sussing out how everyone else has responded to who came back from tribal, and he correctly, albeit very well, not or not a good thing for my team. But Rizzo calls out Alex to I think Savannah, or maybe just to the camera. Um, it's gonna happen a lot. And he goes, Alex is playing the middle, and we got to get him out because, and then he just kind of lays out Alex's whole game plan. And I really got to give Rizzo credit because while that was terrible for me, he really read Alex's game so unbelievably well. It's the kind of thing that would make you want to pick him up um, if we were still pre-merge and you'd be able to add him to your team. But you can't. So for all those people that hated Rizzo before, looks like the joke's on you. And that includes me. All right. That's enough of that. So we get then to a reward challenge. The reward this week is going to be fried chicken, French fries, soda, cheesecake, and blueberries. There's probably something else that I mixed or missed, I should say. And the next thing I wrote is Mikey is going to be so mad because in this challenge we are once again divided into teams, two teams of four, and uh, those teams of four are going to have to go through a classic obstacle course where they roll a giant cube, climb up the cube to get a bag, crawl under a net through the sort of mud, not really this time. Um, they had to knock down a bunch of rings and then toss the same rings up onto the pole that they came from. Now, the teams of four that we're going to have are decided by a schoolyard pick, which we did not get in the episode. It is released as a deleted scene online. You can go watch. But the schoolyard pick is they draw rocks to figure out who's going to be the captains, and Christina is once again a captain, which makes me feel better to know it was by rock draw, not by choice, because who on earth would choose her to be a captain? Um, and Christina ends up picking Segretti, Alex, and Savannah. And Rizzo is the other captain by rock draw, and he ends up picking Sage, Steven, and Juwan. Now, the last thing I'll say about this, because it was not in the actual episode, but on the video online, is Rizzo got first pick and he picked Juwan. In kind of a touching moment, he really wanted Juwan to eat because Juwan had not been able to go on a reward yet. And Christina picked Segretti because, as I said earlier, she blatantly called Segretti out when they got back from Tribal. And she was like, hey, I think I need to mend some fences here, and I'm going to pick Segretti to try and show her like I'm extending the olive branch. Uh, Now, if it were me, I don't think that would change how I felt about her at all. But Segretti is at least cool with it. So those are the teams. And excuse me, sorry, shout out Sharon for this mug that she made me. Awesome mug. Love that mug. Um, you'll notice that it's teams of four, even though there's nine people left. So Belarity ends up drawing a rock that is going to have her sit out. And she's going to live or die with one team that she picks. So she chooses to wager on Rizzo's team. So that means if Rizzo's team wins, she also gets to go and have the food. And if they don't win, too bad. But she doesn't have to compete. So they start the challenge, and there's just so many knots to untie. They got to untie like every single part of this cube, as if rolling the cube wasn't hard enough. The yellow team, which I believe is Rizzo's team, gets rolling pretty quickly. Um, and the other team starts to they catch up when you have to climb up the cube to get the bag or whatever it is. Rizzo climbs up his pretty quickly. He's been the climber for their team, which has always confused me. Steven gets the rings pretty quickly, and then again it's kind of neck and neck. Segretti really struggles on knocking their rings down for her team, that's Christina's team. And I got really worried because she'd been a challenge beast up until this point, and it looked like she was really faltering. Um, and everyone was kind of at odds with her as it was. So I was worried for my own teammates on Probst Malone, kind of dragging their weight. She ends up getting it. It gets really close. Juwan, um, sorry, my light went out. Juwan starts to pull through for the ring toss. There you go. You can see me now. But ultimately, it is Alex who uh, catches back up and puts his group, which is Christina, Segretti, Alex, and Savannah, into the lead. They win, and that is actually going to be your reward challenge gift of the week. So let's flash that up now. It was a pretty close battle. Like I said, Christina's team had to come back as a result of Segretti struggling, but they end up winning. And then that leads to a moment that we haven't seen in a long time, many, many, many seasons, where Christina opts to give up her part of the reward for Juwan. It's a move that I think is risky. So while it endears you, excuse me, to a lot of people, you're a very nice person. Juwan's always going to be on her side now. It's very sweet. It's very public. And when you take public moves in Survivor, inevitably someone, at least one person, if not more, is looking to exploit that move. So I do fear for Christina's sake, if she continues to make it through, that people are going to go, hey, remember that time she was really, really nice and gave up her spot at the reward for Juwan? Do we really want to go against her in a jury that's going to favor her because they see her as a really nice person? Let's knock her out before she gets there. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that would make me nervous. Very sweet moment. Really loved watching it as a human being. As a game player, that's risky. So we go back to the beach. and they're eating. There's not much to say about this sequence. Steven kind of starts to have a little bit of a breakdown. He's like dreaming about the chicken that he killed 3 weeks ago, and it's like haunting him in his nightmares. I was really hoping for a full mental breakdown, which I understand is a rude thing to say, but I've had for 6 or 7 weeks now, already teed up, ready to go, a breakdown alert where I was waiting for someone a la Liz in 46 or Brandon in 25 or 26, whatever it is, to just start screaming and lose their absolute minds. I have an intro for it ready to go. I'm really proud of, but Steven at least pulls it together. For now, it's just the nightmare. So we get that. Um, Sage won't stop talking about how much she hates Savannah. I don't care anymore. Not even because I have Savannah, just because it's like change the record. Um, and then Rizzo continues to aggressively target Alex. And at this point, even though he's targeting my team, I have to respect it because I had this thought that he's had an idol for like 3 weeks now, maybe more. I don't know. And most people would just be content to sit there and be like, I have an idol, I'm safe, let's play this strategically. He's playing hard. He's not slowing down because he has an idol. He's still making moves. He's trying to set stuff up for the future. He's still reading things. He's still part of the conversations. And I really appreciate that someone as a player is not just sitting back and doing nothing. He continues to work and continues to strategize and gives us something to watch every week. So I appreciate that. I wish he wasn't going after Alex, but you know what? I respect it. I respect it a lot because I don't think most of the people on this island honestly would have the guts to do what he's doing, which is to continue to play when you don't have to. So then we get to the immunity challenge. This immunity challenge will finally be an individual challenge. Sort of. Two people are going to win immunity, one man and one woman, but there's no teams. And it's basically a leg press at the gym, except you have to hold up this disc with your legs. And I didn't realize until halfway through that they're like holding it up against a post that does not have a flat surface. So it's constant, the disc is constantly moving like this. If you watched it, you probably didn't need that visual. And if you didn't watch it, you're probably not listening to this video. Um, but anyway, it looks honestly so hard because you can only hold yourself up for like 10 minutes and then you got to go hands free. And it's the kind of thing that a lot of people would struggle with. I don't know that I've seen this done before at all. I understand I'm not the best Survivor historian because I have not physically seen a lot of the seasons, but Bree and I agreed that we can't remember them doing this challenge, which is always nice to see a new one. So, I also wrote that MC would have crushed this had she been in the game, but she's not. Um, so pretty much people start dropping immediately. Rizzo drops, Christina drops, and then Steven starts regaling us with space facts, in a sequence that I was very confused by because it was kind of nice. They were all like really enjoying it. It was a nice moment of camaraderie. But then it's also like cuts to Sage, who is absolutely dying, and then Jeff's kind of into it like he is at Tribal Council. Um, and then ultimately Steven stops when Sage drops. And while I thought this was kind of a nice moment, Jeff basically tells him to shut the fuck up. He he's like, listen, I love that, but I'm gonna take it back from here. Um, And so then we get back to the challenge. They all have to pick their hands up at this point. I can't remember who's still in. There's a good number of them still in. Um, the camera editing was garbage. It turned into like a rave for a second. I felt like there should have been a um, like a seizure warning. It was really bizarre. Um, but ultimately, Alex drops, Blairty drops, Juwan drops. Steven wins individual immunity for the men. And then we get down to another Segretti Savannah showdown, a moment that's great for my tribe. Um, but ultimately, I fear we'll put a target on both their backs. Though now that I'm thinking about it in real time, everyone already hates Savannah for I've expressed I can't really figure out why. Um, and everyone hates Segretti because she won one challenge and did pretty well in another one. So I also can't really figure out why. They're like, she is the next coming of Jesus. We got to get rid of her. But anyway, so they last for over 40 minutes, which is insane. Um, Savannah looks solid, and I don't know if part of it was a mental game with Segretti. Probably was. I don't know if part of it was just honesty, but she looks at Segretti several times and goes, "Listen, I'm not dropping. This hurts, but I can honestly go all day," which is going to be our challenge gift of the week. And as I talk with this up over my face in the background here, uh, Segretti drops. She's looking pretty worse for wear by the end of 40 minutes, as you would. Savannah wins again, so Savannah and Steven are going to win individual immunity. And Sage starts pouting, but what else is new? I'm so tired of her. All right, so we go to the Scrambo, and once again, not much happens because no one can get out Savannah. They're like, well, that plan's gone yet again. Um, No one really attempts to get out Segretti, which is weird because they like flipped last week. They're all like, let's get her, let's kill her. And this week they like forgot she existed. Fine for my tribe, not complaining. And we get Alex versus Rizzo, something that's happening since the beginning of the episode and the beginning of the show. Because if you remember, they were the ones that had to go to the Sweat versus Savvy challenge, where Rizzo had to cheat to get back into the game. Um, and once again, I respect it, Rizzo. Not thrilled that it's my player, but I respect it. Um, that's it. That's all that happens in that part. So we had a tribal. Tribal is weird because the jury walks in, Jawan starts drooling over MC. I don't know if anyone else caught that, but it made me uncomfortable. Um, Savannah takes credit for some of the moves she's had, but not in like a dumb way, where she was like, I did this and I did this. Because sometimes, if you haven't been watching for a long time, you should know that, like, when you make a move, you want credit for it because you want the jury to know you did that, but you don't want everyone else to know you did that because they'll be like, oh, well, there's her resume is being boosted. Let's get her out. I don't really know how to describe it. It's been a couple days since I watched it, to be honest, but she takes credit for some of her moves, but without bragging, which I thought was interesting. It's a very hard line to walk. Um, Valerity probably talks a little bit too much about her strategy. I got concerned for her. And then Steven gives us this golden line to Jeff where he's like, well, Jeff, do you want a kangaroo metaphor or a space metaphor? And Jeff was like, kangaroo, obviously, because I want to know what that is. And he goes, just kidding, I didn't have a kangaroo metaphor. Here's space. But then he gives us a really good space metaphor to his credit. So that happened. Rizzo, at one point, so they vote. Rizzo, you can tell not much happens. And then I'm in a rush here. Rizzo goes to grab for the idol, but doesn't play it in a move that was only for TV. Don't really know why he did that. It wasn't like he was doing it before people were voting to like throw them off. He did it just for TV. Um, Alex goes home. So bummer for me, and bummer for several other people in the league, which we'll get to in a second. Which actually that second is now. So the rush recap is over. It is now time for League Matters, something that is honestly pretty big this week. So let's get into the scoring plays. Scoring plays this week. Since we're just at Tribal, let's start there. People that got credit for voting with the majority to get Alex out. It's Rizzo, Savannah, Valerity, Juwan, Sage, and Segretti. Stephen and Christina were left entirely out of that plan. Alex obviously left out of the plan because he went home. For the individual immunity, Stephen and Savannah win individual immunity, and then the only other points were the reward. So three of these people are straightforward. Savannah, Alex, and Segretti were all on the team that won the reward. Now, there's a weird situation that honestly we didn't account for originally in the rules, where Christina was on the team that earned the reward. In fact, she picked the team that earned the reward, so she should get a lot of credit, but she chose not to take it, and she gave it to Chuan. So we're splitting the reward points for those two. So luckily, it was an even number. It would have been 2 points for Christina, so we're just giving one to Christina and one to Chuan. Everyone else, again, on that team got the full 2 points for that action. All right, let's go to your season standings. So I think I'm gonna try and move, I don't know, this way. I'm trying a new thing to save time on editing in post here, where you should be able to see it superseded. As you can tell, I don't know where to put my head behind me. It should be kind of like a green screen. Maybe I'll duck like this. So, season standings. Let's get into it. Your season standings are as follows. So here's the bottom half. So we have Eric continues his spot again. This is going to be interesting to watch for you because I can't see where it is. I just know it's lurking behind me. Maybe I'll do this. So Eric is in last with 86 points. Survivor, I hardly know her. 25th is Connor with Snuff My Torch at 105 points, just sneaking over the triple digit mark. Megan and Emily W are actually tied with 113 points, but Megan has a absolutely garbage coefficient of variance. So she is in 24th, Emily is in 23rd. That is Buffs and Bad Blood in 24th, and again, Life of a Shogo in 23rd. Brian with tribe name Y'all Need for Jesus is in 22nd, just 1 point ahead of them. Kelsey with the Toto tribe is in 21st. Vic and V, a showdown of the lines that my computer always wants to autocorrect to each other's name. Vic with jury duty and V with what Destiny's Child said. Both tied at 121. V has a slightly more consistent tribe, so she gets the edge at 19th. Sharon with the Red Cardinals in 18th. Smith with Gloria's Ripping Gainers in 17th. Brenna, who was previously almost all the way at the bottom, is making a run to the top, almost out of the bottom half in 17th, with You'll Be Back. Greg with Parvati's Pony Club, again, used to be terrible, now is not bad, 15th. And my mom is in 14th, which with 133 points. Now you may also notice that she has a coefficient of variance listed, and that is because she is tied with Faith at 13th, except Faith has a slightly more consistent team. Now, you know what? We'll talk about that after. You'll notice the color coding here. Black, you could imagine, probably not very good. So, moving up the top half, Matt and Mikey, a showdown of the Calabrese brothers, are in 11th and 12th, again, with their coefficients of variance you can see there. Mikey is the Wanahakalugi tribe, edging out MC Energy. Nora, with Wait, this isn't Love Island, is in 10th. Scott is tied with Kyla. Scott with the Beachcombers and Kyla with the Dirty South Kai Lions at 139 points. They're tied for 8th, but Scott has been less consistent, so he goes to 9th. And Mulcahy and Emily E, a showdown of people I used to work with, are tied for 6th at 140 points, but Emily E is more consistent. Emily E with Rough Times and Mulcahy with the self-deprecating auto-immunity idols, a joke with which some of the league will love and some will question his sanity. Christina, Sharkbait Hoo Ha Ha, used to be at the bottom, now in 5th. Anne used to be at the bottom, now in 4th with the Hammerheads. Way to go, Anne. Brad, sorry, I had to stifle a cough there. I didn't just get emotional. Brad with Braddy's Baddies is in 3rd. Was the league leader for 2 seasons. Now he's starting to fall off. And Bree, the Rice Baby. Bree is your now second place league member, and I am in first with Probst Malone, a spot which I'm really worried about because I have fear for my tribe members. This is your full league standings. I just went through it, so I'm not going to leave it up for that long. Now, the color coding. I briefly noted this last week, but remember last week they had an issue with the data, so you didn't get this full conversation, so I'll repeat it. If you are on this list, if you are yellow in the league standings, that I'm classifying you as got nothing for you, which includes me. That means you only have 2 tribe members left, and you can't pick up a new one, so that could be troublesome. I took the liberty of saying whether I considered you to be at risk to drop and lose another, and that is strictly based on my opinions of who's on your team and who is considered safe on the island, who has an advantage. There's absolutely no science behind it. Feel free to disagree. I'm probably wrong. And now we get your disaster tribes. Cue the disaster tribe alert. Now you'll notice there's some change here. Megan was on it. She's still on it. Can't get off of it. She has Sage left, so if Sage leaves, Megan is done for the season. And Brad, our former winner, has dropped to the disaster tribe list. Brad, I'm really worried about you, except you have Rizzo, who seems to be absolutely immune to everything. So you're probably not going anywhere for a long time, but you do only have one person, so your score may drop. And this leads us to the record for worst anyone has ever done in a season last year. Not to rub it in, but I'm going to rub it in. Last season, every single person made it to the finale with someone on their tribe. No one has ever gone out early. Scott and Faith challenged that this season, and they are done. They uh, only got a few points this week, and they lost Alex, their last tribe member. So I'm sending them to Exile Island.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Now, when you're in Exile Island, a few things happen. One, I make fun of you a little bit. Two, uh, your spot on the leaderboard is going to start to drop because you cannot earn any points. Now, the other thing that's going to happen, three, is after this week, I'm going to stop considering you for weekly awards. It doesn't seem fair to do things like bottom of the tribe when you obviously can't earn any points. So obviously you're there. And also for consistency, I'm going to lock your consistency now. So your consistency is going to go through the last week that you had a player. Because the way the math works, without getting too far into it, adding a bunch of zeros to the data artificially is really going to be a problem. So you'll notice that on the league leaderboard, I kind of bolded their consistencies. That's not going to change now because it doesn't seem fair. But realistically, you're going to drop off a cliff in the leaderboard anyway. So, you know, there you go. So Scott and Faith are on Exile Islands. All right. Oop. Let's do your weekly awards. Your weekly awards. We're going to start with have the numbers. This week, Bree, Emily E, and Brenna have the numbers. They were the top 3-point earning tribes of the week. Now let's do the bottom of the tribe. Bottom of the tribe, no surprise here. Scott and Faith, bottom of the tribe. Megan, not your best week. Never great to be on a list with the two people that aren't really in the league anymore. But Scott, Faith, and Megan, you are the bottom of the tribe this week. Only 2 points each. Let's talk about your most consistent. All right, most consistent for the season so far continues to be Kyla. The fantastic coefficient of variance. That is what's separating. Remember, the consistency metric is what's separating you as a tiebreaker in the leaderboard. So Kyla, great job. Used to be Greg a couple weeks ago, but Kyla took over, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago, which leads us to our least consistent. Least consistent is no longer Eric. It is Megan. Megan, what are you doing? Um, Nothing to say here. All right, let's continue on the negative awards. Taking your flint. All right, remember, taking your flint is for the person that drops the most spots on the leaderboard week to week. Again, this is an award that you are not eligible for if you're on Exile Island after, the last week you had people. Oop, get my notes on two different computers here. Uh, Faith, I'm taking your flint. You dropped 8 spots this week. I expect you'll drop more, but at this point, this is the last week you can earn this award. Scott also lost his full tribe, but he only dropped a couple spots. That's how much of a lead he had, which is sickening to me because I would like to be doing that well. So, Faith, I'm taking your flint. Likewise, a hearty, that's how you do it on Survivor.
Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. Aye.
Goes to Emily E., who climbed 9 spots this week. Emily E. had a monster week and climbed 9 spots this week. Way to go, E. And I think that's the last slide I have. Yeah, so those are your weekly awards. All right. Well, that's it this week. It's a short one. It's only me. Um, Next week we'll resume. Bree will come back as my formal co-host. Maybe we'll have a guest. There is an episode next week, the day before Thanksgiving. I wasn't sure if they would have one, but they will. And I think, what do we have? 8 people left on the island. There's probably, let's see, 8 to 7, 7 to 6, 6 to 5. There's probably 4 episodes left, maybe. The finale, they change every year. Sometimes they do it with 5 people to the end. Sometimes they split that into 2 episodes. I don't know. But we're getting close to the end. Things are changing a lot on the leaderboard, so it should be exciting. If you, as always, if you want to come on the pod with me in a week where it's not like this week, it's not as rushed, please let me know. We're always looking to have people. I know we have some recurring guests, but if anyone who's new to it wants to jump in, I'm always happy to bring you aboard. Otherwise, this is me signing off. This has been The League Has Spoken.